All right. Welcome to Sideboard MTG. My name's Eric, and it's time for an old show we haven't done in a really long time. It's coffee time, and I was inspired by Alba T. Ross, who made the thumbnail and opening song for this particular stream. And I really just wanted to put some kind of content out. I've been without power for the past few days due to a storm that hit Dallas and left about 300,000 people without power for a couple days, and I was victim to that. So for everyone that sent me all of the well wishes, I want to thank you all so much. Had people offering help and stuff like that. We did have a tree land on the back side of the house. I sent a picture of that out. But again, everyone that actually gave me their support and everything. Thank you so much. Just knowing that people care, that means a lot. So I wanted to bring back a show that we haven't done in a really really long time, and that's coffee time. This is a little different. This is we're basically just going to be going through the Reddit. We're going to be looking at people's decks. We're going to be talking about those decks and seeing if we can maybe improve on them, get a little opinion, and we're going to be doing that as a community. The Sideboard MTG subreddit has been a huge boon to the community, especially to me as a content creator. The Sideboard MTG subreddit has really given me a lot of inspiration and things like that. Albatross, you made it, sir. You know what? This one's almost just for you, but not really. It's also for everyone else. Albatross here did make the thumbnail and that opening song. Again, if you want to check out that song, if you want to even download it, use it for your own purposes and everything, there's the first link in the description box will allow you to go purchase that song. Albatross does have that up for everyone. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, check that first link in the description box and go check that song out. It's pretty cool. It's also will take you over to his page where you can probably find some more stuff that you might like there. Anyway, Skullblade, you're tuning in to a live stream for the very first time here on Sideboard MTG, and like I said, sir, this one's going to be a little bit different. I am going to play this mono black deck here. We will be playing that a little bit, but first we're going to talk about a little bit about some of these other decks. And then we're going to play this and then possibly talk about this deck a little bit and maybe even adjust it a little bit. I kind of like where the deck's going, but there's a couple things in this particular deck that I'll just start with friends. Don't let friends play Navigator's Compass in Standard. So we've got to fix that, right? So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about this deck, and it's mainly because of Karn the Great Creator, right? Now, a few things I do want to say about Karn the Great Creator before we get too in depth on this deck is I see a lot of people doing exactly what we've got going on in the sideboard here. Like if you look at the sideboard, you'll see that the entire sideboard is nothing but artifacts, right? And if you are playing like best of one arena and things like that, then yeah, okay, so maybe you do want to put nothing but artifacts because you're not going to have an option for using that sideboard in best of one other than using Karn the Great Creator. However, if you are playing best of three, there has to be some cards that would be more useful. I mean, there has to be something that would be more useful than say a Blood Talon Candle, right? Like I would rather have a Duress. Okay. Same thing for Navigator's Compass. Navigator's Compass is going to let us have additional colors of mana. If you look at the backbone of this deck, there's no use for other colors of mana. So therefore, in my opinion, Navigator's Compass is completely useless unless you just want to gain 3 life, and that's really just not enough for me, right? So there we have a couple cards here that I just really wouldn't play in a best of 3 scenario. And, and as we go through this, we could probably find a few other cards that we might not want to, play in a best of three scenario. And in that case, I think that you could get away with running less artifacts in the sideboard. Is this Tyler's deck? Um I didn't I didn't get time to try to fix it. Okay. I didn't know if you were I didn't know you were going to fix it, if you will. I don't even know that it needs to be fixed, except for the sideboard, right? Like again, if you're playing it in best of one, then there's no point in having that sideboard with anything other than artifacts. And I see this a lot. Some of the pros some of the pros were talking about. I think Patrick Chapin in one of their latest top level podcast conversations. They were him and Michael Flores were talking about like the mono green deck that had Karn, the great creator in it, and it had 15 artifacts in the sideboard. And again, like I said, if you are playing in best of one, that's a great idea. But if you're not playing in best of one, then there's probably some other cards that we can put in there, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go forward. We're also going to talk about this Treasurator, right? Jeskai Treasurator, which this deck actually looked really sweet. So I mean, we do have Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. We've got some Smothering Tithes, which the Smothering Tithes is actually a really cool card. I mean, we're going to tax our opponent for every time that they draw a card. Whenever your opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, we get a treasure token, right? So you draw a card, I'm going to ramp. Now, that's not as good as it was a few weeks back, right? A few weeks back, a lot of people were playing a lot of card draw, right? As of right now, we're not playing near as much card draw in standard as we were before, and that's mainly because of Narset. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not playing card advantage cards, but we're playing cards like Narset that say, look at the top 4 cards of your library and reveal one, and then put that into your hand. That does not say draw a card. So the format's kind of shifted around drawing, like directly drawing cards, right? Those 3 most powerful words in that could be printed on a magic card and make any magic card better by adding 3 words to it. Hey, look, 2 mana, you gain 3 life. How do you make that better? You gain 3 life, 3 magic words, draw a card, right? So we're not seeing near as much of that as we were in the past. We are still seeing people play opt and things like that, but not near as much as we were in the past, and that's mainly because of Narset, right? So I am going to say that I think Smothering Tithe is a little weaker than it was in the past. So do I look at other people's deck list for when I play Modern, or is it just my own decks? I will. I haven't gotten into Modern extremely deep into Modern yet, but with Modern Horizons out, I've got a deck that I'm really wanting to toy around with. It just got some new tools from Modern Horizons, and I am going to be diving into Modern a little bit more than I was in the past. We're going to be putting out quite a bit more content than you guys are probably used to, as we do have things in motion now that are going to allow me to produce more content, which is going to be absolutely great. But again, that's not what today's show was about. Today's show was just reaching out, connecting with the community, talking about some of these decks. We're going to be going over the Reddit. We're going to be looking at a whole bunch of different decks. I have these pulled up. Later tonight, I'm going to be playing this Jeskai Treasurator deck. We're going to be playing the Teamer Super Friends deck that was posted by, is this Rocker or Sir Eccles deck? One of these is Rocker's deck, and the other one's Sir Eccles' deck. Okay, so we are going to be playing these. Again, Pirate's Pillage, draw a card. If our opponents have Narset and things like that now, it's going to be really, really hard to draw additional cards. But that's something that we'll talk about as a community here very shortly. So. Yeah, this is mostly a standard format, or a standard channel, but I am going to be reaching out into Modern a little bit more, just because of the way I like some of the new Modern Horizons cards, right? So, Skullblade, I do like the icon there. That's a pretty cool icon. All right. Anyway, so moving forward here, I guess we should just start with the Jeskai Treasure Raider deck, right? So this deck's pretty sweet. All right, let's look at a couple things here. Do I even have this available? I bet I don't. I bet I don't. Do we have? Nope. Can't bring that up. Um, hmm. with the new overlay, I don't have my converted mana cost guide there. All right, so cleansing nova is going to require a certain amount of white mana. Um, Man, I want to say 14 at 5 for double white. It may be more than that, but I want to say 14 at 5 for double white. So we will need to produce at least, or we will need to have at least 14 mana sources. So, we've got 4, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 white sources. So we actually have more white sources than we necessarily need. We've also, let's see, let's look at the red count here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, 13, 14, 15 red sources. For blue, we've got 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 blue sources. So that's actually exactly what you need for a turn 3. Double blue is 16, I believe. Is it 16 or is it 18 for double blue on turn 3? Oh goodness, someone help me out. All right, I'm gonna mess everything up so I can see my CMC guide here. All right, so CMC guide says, hey, what's up, chat? There you guys are. Um, Double blue on turn 3. So 18. Yeah, so we'll need 18 blue sources if we actually want to cast a turn 3 Narset. So we're actually a couple short of being able to guarantee that slam. So we do have a little bit more. Lyra Dawnbringer is going to be our example here for, cleansing nova and things like that. We actually only need 14 white sources to be able to cast our cleansing nova on curve. As far as turn 2 goes, we only need 13 white sources to be able to cast our revitalize, right? So if you guys want to check out this converted mana cost guide, this is going to be one of the biggest things that can help you build your mana bases, right? So we know that we have an extra white source. We know that we have an extra red source that we do not need to be able to cast our spells on curve. So we could easily trade those out for a few more blue sources to help fix our Narset issue. Now, when we look at that, we also have 4 basics, and there's not a lot of decks running 4 basics right now, right? So I mean, we could if we want to, but my biggest thing is I would like a few more blue sources so we can lose a white source and we can lose a red source to produce a couple more blue. Now in that we could add an extra Hollowed Fountain because we don't have Hollowed Fountain. We don't have a full play set of Hollowed Fountain, and we don't have a full play set of Steam Vent. So we could add those blue sources there, and we wouldn't even really sacrifice much in the way of our other colors. So go ahead and fix it. Sir Eccles, so this one's yours, right? Well, awesome, sir. So I like the deck, and I just wanted to kind of go over it here. Again, we're just doing coffee time, so you're seeing a lot of white weenie on Arena, and the deck is becoming more and more popular in paper and MTGO as well. Oh, is the deck becoming more and more popular on paper? So as far as paper goes, I never thought that the deck got bad, right? I never thought that the deck got bad, but I do think that let me gather my words here, okay? I never thought that the mono white deck was bad. Um, it it is kind of hinging on some of the deafening clarions and things like that. If you went back and you looked at like week one of the MPL split, Brad Nelson, who did go undefeated, by the way, guys. Brad Nelson went undefeated in the split. He took down Emerald Division. We seen that Brad only got 2 lands against Matt Nass in his first week, and just crushed him with 1 drops, right? So the mono white deck does have some merit, and I play the mono white deck a little bit on Arena, and I think the mono white deck's in a really good spot. So let's go ahead, change this, and then we're gonna add some more blue here. So let's go with we have room for a hollowed fountain. Um, so we can go ahead and throw a hollowed fountain in the deck. Let's see. How are we gonna fix a hollowed fountain? So how bad is plain? How good is plains for us, right? If we really like, are we worried about like one of those land destruction decks? I know there's that Golgari land destruction deck that's kind of floating around. I think Gabby Sparks played it a little bit. It uses Casualties of War. So if we're really not worried about people Assassin's Trophy and Field of Ruining our lands and things, we could just get rid of the white source altogether and just grab another Hollowed Fountain. So I mean, we could do that. We could we can also sacrifice a red source for more blue. I'm I'm a little bit on edge about getting rid of more than, like, I want at least 2 basics. So I am going to grab this other steam vents here. Oh, I typed that wrong. Yep. It's a steam vent. Probably should have put an S on that, right? So we'll grab another steam vents. This gives us 2 basics, right? Like, if we're going to go search something up, we're probably going to need at least a blue land, and we're probably going to need at least red, because that we're pretty set on that. Let's see. Looking at the mana base, we're still 1 short white to be able to smooth our mana base out. And if we change other cards, this could change how we want our mana base to be. So a lot of times, I'd like to pick the cards that I'd want to play with first, and then work on the mana base. So that's well, if we're gonna leave it here, I should probably fix chat, right? Like, if you guys are, I'm gonna leave this up so you guys can see, then we should probably fix this. There we go. Man, so we can, at this point, we can lose a white source and a red source for a blue source. So well, we actually have all of, no, we're still 1 short on blue to be able to cast Narset on curve. And we have to sacrifice white or red for that extra blue. Are we stuck with just another island? I mean, at this point, we're kind of jam packed on split lands. Like, we don't have any other split lands we could add to the deck that would be blue. So this might actually be one of those points where you go, I'm not going further than this, right? Like, I'm just going to take my chance that there's just going to be a slight percentage where I'm not going to have Narset. Utility lands are good, but I think, like, you need to have a really good reason to be putting a utility land in a 3-color deck right now, because, again, mono red has not been pushed out of the format. So that is still a thing. And those single color decks and the 2-color decks are going to be a lot more consistent than you're going to be with your 3-color deck. And if your deck chokes at all, then those decks are going to run away with you. That's right, treasures. You do have treasures to kind of make up for it. Um, I think I would probably leave the mana base the way it is right now. Like anything else causes us to lose a split land for a basic, and that basic would be just another blue. I mean, I'm not really interested in like losing a sacred foundry for an island, right? That being said, I'm also not very interested in running three sacred foundries and four clifftop retreats. I would rather have the pain land. I know that we're in a really painful meta right now, but I would rather have the pain land, especially when we're running cards like revitalize and things like that. And the reason I would rather have that pain land is because if you get one of those hands where you're holding your buddy lands, if you're holding these, you're going to be running into some turns where you don't get to opt on one, you don't get to revitalize on two. You're coming in tapped, you're playing a couple turns behind, you're not getting to shock, you're not doing much until turn 3 or 4, and playing your 1-drops on turn 2 or possibly playing your 2-drops on turn 3 is very, very slow. Now this deck does have that plan that it's okay with coming out very slow because it plans on cleaning the board up afterwards. That being said, though, there's a good chance that you're going to take some damage. Like, let's say if we're coming against one of those mono red or possibly even the mono white deck, they're not going to choke a lot. They only need a few lands to actually get started, and they're going to be applying a lot of pressure, and in those decks what you really want to do is just stop creature damage, right? Especially against mono red, you want to stop creature damage as much as possible, and not being able to play your shock on turn 1 or not being able to play opt or revitalize means that you're not making use of your mana really well. And again, sometimes in those decks you're just going to bring that tap land in, you're just going to bring it in tapped anyway, and you're just not going to worry about it. But if I made any more changes to the mana base here, it would be a Sacred Foundry over a Clifftop Retreat, right? And that's just because I want my buddy lands coming in onto untapped, right? Like I want to be able to get one of my good shock lands down on turn 1 so that I can turn 2 start bringing things in untapped, or at the very worst turn 3 make sure that my turn 3 mana is untapped so that I can get that Deafening Clarion off and things like that. Another little issue that I do have with the deck, and this deck is going to handle it better than a lot of decks would be our turns don't actually do a lot for the board, right? We're going to go back to the mono black deck there, Skylar. That's actually going to be the deck that we play for this particular stream, and we do have another stream coming up later tonight. But I just wanted to get a short stream out and just kind of talk to you guys about some things, and just basically say thank you to everyone that offered their support while we were without power for a little over 48 hours. I mean, Heart of Dallas without power? Come on, what? Anyway. And here I am complaining about being without power. The storm also blew over a crane that knocked down a major portion of a garage building and an apartment building. A poor lady lost her life. Everyone, please be with that family, because that's horrible, right? That's just horrible. I'm going to move on before I make this a sad stream and we're all doing other things, but that the storm was bad. Let's put it that way, right? You didn't realize there was a bad storm until you saw the post. Well, if you looked at the radar of the storm, it was moving directly from north to south, and it was just the size of Dallas Fort Worth, right? Like it was the exact size of Dallas Fort Worth, and it was weird. It was a weird storm, right? I'm from Mississippi, and we have some horrible storms. So this storm came over it. I'm standing outside, just standing there. It wasn't much rain. It was just straight line winds, and all of a sudden I hear a crack in the tree behind the house, and I told my wife, I was like, Val, I just heard that tree crack. And she said, well, we better get Lincoln in. I mean, me, my wife, and my 2 year old are all standing outside. And then, so we all walk in the house. And within seconds after walking in the house, this huge 25-foot limb comes flying across our yard and lands on top of the house. It was crazy. So it wasn't that bad though. I mean, I pushed it off the side of the house, grabbed a hold of it, and drug it to the road. And finally, the claw truck come and got it today. So yeah, you'll be happy to see Dayton again. Going back to Ohio? What? Um, the weather is crazy right now. You just had 14 recorded tornadoes in Dayton on Memorial Day. What? 14 recorded tornadoes? Oh goodness. Uh, I don't pray a lot, but my my heart goes out to you, buddy. Uh, we'll have to, man, 14 recorded tornadoes. See, I'll tell you a little something about me right here, right? I ain't afraid of much. I was in the Marine Corps. At multiple points in my life, I had decided that if I die, that's how it's going to happen. But I am scared to death of Mother Nature. Almost everything else in this world, you have a fighting chance against, right? Train coming at you, you can step off the tracks. There's a bear, you can try to fight it. You might have a chance. You can try to run from it. You might even be able to ball up in a ball and get away from it. But if Mother Nature wants you, there ain't a lot you can do. Just go hide in your hole, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So yeah, I'm a little bit scared to death of Mother Nature because you just can't fight back against that. But anyway, we're gonna move on. We're gonna get back into some magic here. Um, from North Dayton, Inglewood is your as your name. Oh, Sir Eccles of Inglewood. Okay, okay, all right. See, I didn't know about Inglewood. Um, I think back in the '80s, my father drove one of the trolley buses in Dayton. It was a job he had back in the '80s. Um, Dayton, Ohio is one of the last cities in America that actually has electrical trolley buses. If they still have them, at least they had them years ago when I was back there. So I've got a lot of family in Ohio. So Dayton would be better if it didn't have to drive 40 minutes to find a Tim Hortons. Okay. You're just outside of Detroit. Okay. Well, anyway, we're gonna get back to Magic. I hope everyone has recovered from the series of storms and everything else. And the big one I wanted to talk about with this particular deck was the mana base. I wanted to see if we could shore up the mana base a little bit, and we didn't do a lot with it, right? Um, we didn't do much to the mana base, but the small adjustments could help our percentage over time. We do have treasures and cards like Smothering Tithe that are going to help us out. The thing I'm worried about with this particular deck is if we don't hit a Deafening Clarion, we could be dead long before we get to a Cleansing Nova. If on turn 4, most of our turn 4 is not doing a lot to the board that particular turn. Now, you can, Pirates Pillage on turn 4 if you have to, in order to get into, maybe a Revitalize or a Shock and then Opt or something. Or, Pirates Pillage, use one of the treasures for Shock. I mean, we have some of those options, but I'm just worried that we're not doing enough to the battlefield. Again, we're going to play this deck later tonight for, our Subsunday games, our community deck games. So we'll get a chance to see if the deck works, as we get it into action. But one of the first things I noticed about it was I didn't think that we had enough white sources to consistently cast Cleansing Nova, and with the structure of the deck not doing a lot to the battlefield, I thought that it was very, very important that we actually were able to cast these board wipes on curve, right? Because any percentage of time that we can't cast these board wipes on curve, there's probably a good chance that we're going to die. Also, if you look at the deck, there's not a lot going on in order to deal with planeswalkers. So we're not going to be countering planeswalkers. We're not going to be pressuring planeswalkers by dealing damage to them. There's just not any way in the deck to actually deal with planeswalkers. Now, the deck does have emergency powers, which is going to be one of those really huge cards that we could cast off of like a Thousand Year Storm or something like that. And there is a chance that we could get to rocking with Thousand Year Storm. And I get that this deck was built mainly to have a little bit of fun with. But the big one I seen was, because we're not doing a lot to the battlefield, these board wipes are going to be extremely, extremely important. So do think about that. Like, if you have cards in your deck that must be cast, then make sure your mana base can cast those particular cards. As far as Narset, we are making a little bit of a percentage. You know, like we're losing a little bit of a percentage by not having that extra blue source in the deck. It's not much, but I don't want to sacrifice our ability to cast Cleansing Nova or Deafening Clarion, because I believe that that would be our easiest way to lose the game, would be not being able to cast those. The rest of the deck is extremely mana hungry, right? Like we are extreme on we need a ton of mana to be able to make some of these huge plays. Thousand Year Storm, I've tried the card a lot in the past. It works great with cards like Brass's Bounty. One of the best cards that I have run with Thousand Year Storm is Mission Briefing. Actually, Mission Briefing is really, really good. Another card that you might want to consider with Thousand Year Storm would be Finale. Right, Finale of Promise might be where you want to be, because you would cast the the Finale of Promise, and then you cast the extra two cards. And because Thousand Year Storm says, you know, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, which, you know, Finale of Promise would guarantee those, copy it for each other instant sorcery you've cast before it. So we could get back, you know, a Pirate's Pillage or something like that. So yeah, Blink of an Eye. Blink of an Eye might be might be worth it in this deck. It would buy you time, but again, you know, the big one for me is we're not doing much to the board in the main board. In the sideboard, though, Ixalan's Binding. We're seeing a lot more Ixalan's Binding show up in like the Esper Walkers deck, or the Esper Hero deck. We're also seeing it show up in the Just Got Planeswalkers deck, which is a huge thing. So Ixalan's Binding, really, really good here. I mean, bringing this in against Mono Red is really good. Being able to get an Experimental Frenzy, or being able to get you know, a Chandra or some other major card that you know that they're going to have multiple copies of that could end the game. That's pretty good. Lava Coil here. Now this will help us affect the board very much on turn 2 and forward. Right. There's a lot of Rekindling Phoenixes, so I like Lava Coil in the deck. Dovin's Veto being one of the most powerful counter spells that we currently have access to. The other one being, you know, cards like Absorb or just straight Sinister Sabotage or something. Now, us fixing the mana base for Narset also helps fix the mana base for Absorb, so that's something else to think about, right? Being able to cast Narset, which is a double blue on turn 3, will also help us cast a turn 3 Absorb, which could be very, very important. And the reason a turn 3 Absorb could be very important is because that's the turn that Teferi comes down, right? Now remember, this deck has almost no way to interact with a Planeswalker, and if you want to be able to stop a Teferi, Sorcerer's Spyglass is not going to do it for you, right? Like, if you're bringing in counter spells, if you have Dovin's Vetoes and you have Absorbs and your opponent plays a Teferi, those cards are now dead. You're not going to be doing anything with those cards because you can only play at sorcery speed. And since you can only play at sorcery speed, your Absorbs are horrible, right? So that being said, you really need to be able to stop their turn 3 Teferi. Again, we're not adding anything to the battlefield, so we're not going to be like having that tempo loss where we play our 2-drop and then they play, you know, Teferi and bounce our 2-drop. They draw a card, they've got the tempo on us, things like that. So we are going to be able to sit back and play at instant speed, which, you know, that's where you want those Absorbs and Dovin's Vetoes. Cards like Sorcerer's Spyglass will stop their planeswalkers from ticking up or tick down. It also gives you that information. But what it will not do is it will not stop them from actually casting the spell, right? They're still going to be able to cast Teferi and shut off your instant speed spells. They're still going to be able to cast Narset and keep you from being able to draw additional cards. Now, what is beautiful about some of the card draw in this deck is that it's instant speed. Narset says you can't draw more than one card per turn, so we can draw a card on our turn and then revitalize on their turn, still drawing cards off of it, which is good. So we do have some plays to get around Narset, but right now we're in a meta that is so full of planeswalkers that we need to worry about those. If you did watch my not meta coverage news last week, in the TLDR, I did say that the baseline to beat is still going to be the Wild Growth Walker decks, and it's still going to be the Super Friends decks, and sometimes those are combined, like Bant mid range. They're a little bit of both. Right, you're right. If you watched MMN, which I'm still not sold on the name of that. I'm still working on that. I've also thought about rebranding Subsunday back to Coffee TIme. So I don't know. We're gonna play around with a little rebranding here in the near future. But we're gonna have some fun with Magic either way. So. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this deck. I just wanted to make sure that we could cast certain spells on curve. As far as some of the cards or selections in this deck, I'm not real big on them, right? I've tried Thousand Year Storm in multiple decks since it's printed, right? Since this card was printed, I was like, yes, this is going to be awesome. I want to Storm off because I'm an Izzet player and I love Storm. And I was like, yes, Thousand Year Storm is going to be great. So I don't know. Like I want this to work so bad. So we are going to be playing this later tonight. So if you guys want to check that out, and Sir Eccles, I'm going to be playing it the way we currently have it. If you do have anything that you want to change to this or anything like that, we can. So Sir Eccles says Little Teferi isn't a problem with this deck as much as others because we want to play a tap out control style most of the time. Do we? Thousand Year Storm's the new unsealing. Don't even go there, Sir Eccles. Don't even go there. Swap Bounty for Finale. Ooh. Alright, so let's look at Promise of Finale real quick, right? Promise of Finale. We just want to look at standard cards. Alright, you may cast up to one target instant or sorcery card and up to one instant, one sorcery with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana cost. The card would be cast this way, exile it. If it's 10 or more, copy those spells twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. That's pretty big, right? I don't know if I would take out Brass's Bounty for it, though. In my experience, Thousand Year Storm and Brass's Bounty have been awesome. However, Pirate's Pillage seem to always get the job done, right? Who let you out of the MTGO Traders chat? Man, I actually haven't been over to the MTGO Traders chat in a really, really long time. I need to go over and see how Terran's doing, right? Like, I need to pop up and say, what's up, Terran? I always loved watching Terran's content, but recently I just haven't had the opportunity to do so. So, yeah, I've got to go over and check him out. You was talking about Sir Eccles. He's always here, always there. Oh, okay, all right. Sideboardmtg loves my decks so much he plays them every once in a while. We do. Terran is MIA? What? He's got a child and a full-time job. That's because there's no money in streaming, right? Yeah. Like there's just no money in streaming. And I think Terran technically streamed for another company, so he wasn't even getting like maybe not even getting the YouTube for it. I don't know. I don't even know how that worked for Terran, but there's just no money in streaming. So, we do this as for love, man. This is a passion thing, right? Um, I guess Brass's bounty could come out. Honestly, I would rather lose emergency powers than that. No, okay, so he didn't get the YouTube. I didn't think he did. I didn't think he did, Elliot. How are you, by the way, Elliot? Haven't seen nor heard from you in quite some time. I know I stream at hours that you don't get to be here. So I hope the brood is still doing well, right? Um, Knuckle pancake sandwich, right? Isn't that the KPS? Anyway, if I lost anything in this deck, or if I did bring in Finale of Promise, it would probably look something like this, right? Every Thursday, awesome. Oh, squad, sorry, Knuckle Pancake Squad. All right, I thought it was a Knuckle Pancake Sandwich. My bad. I don't know. Knuckle Pancake Squad. All right, gotcha. Well, thank you very much, Squad Sandwich. Um, okay, so emergency powers is how you plan on getting Tezzeret out. I mean, we have treasures for that, right? We do. We have treasures for that. Uh, we still have emergency powers. I mean, heaven forbid you get like copy it, right? That seems broken. Like that, we're gonna have some goals to reach later tonight. Um, I wouldn't come down below two emergency powers because that is the big deal. But honestly, if you get to just start going off, you just shock your opponent to death, right? All right, so that's let let's leave it to where it is right now. We'll play it if we want to change it some more. We can do that later tonight. I want to jump over to the Teamer Super Friends deck. Now this is Rocker CCR's deck, and again we're gonna have a little bit of flexibility in this particular version because it's a Planeswalkers deck, right? And the mana base, we've got some multicolored lands here. We've got some lands that are going to just cast absolutely anything we need. So that's going to be pretty sweet. We are going to need a certain number of red sources, blue sources, green sources, that sort of thing, so that we can make it into growth spirals and shocks and things like that. I am a I really wanted to see Saheeli in this deck, right? Let's look at the deck before we start breaking down the mana base and things like that in this particular deck. And so we've got on the early side of things, we've got Mox Amber, which we really can't do anything with this until at least Narset is on the battlefield. Um, we can't do much with our Mox Amber, so we're not going to talk about that very much here. Mox Amber is going to help things in the future with this deck, but it's really not great in turns 1 or 2. Um, Now, when we get into turn 3, 4, and beyond, we can make some mana off of Mox Amber. Now, I do want everyone to understand that the way Mox Amber is worded, um, you're not going to get any mana off of Karn, right? Now, let's read that because I have seen people play Mox Amber and think they could tap it for Karn, and then they couldn't, right? Add 1 mana of any color amongst legendary creatures or planeswalkers you control. Now, Karn has no color, right? So since Karn is colorless, Mox Amber is not going to produce colorless mana. Now that does hurt just a little bit. I did like the version of Jeskai Walkers that was running, the Saheelis and things like that, where you could play Saheeli, play the Mox Amber, and then you could shock or opt or something like that off of the Mox Amber, making a token that very turn, getting that guaranteed hit off of that. Growth Spiral. The Teamer deck's it's a little out there on the mana base, and some of these cards are going to be a little hard to cast. I'm just gonna go out on a limb there and say that. Narset's Reversal is hilarious. It is pretty decent, right? Nissa, who shakes the world, very powerful card. We've got access to Sarkin the Masterless, which is he's pretty much the big payoff for Planeswalker Tribal. Yes, yes, madness. I said Planeswalker Tribal. I did it. I did it. I said it. All right, so Super Friends. Sarkin's one of your big payoffs for playing Super Friends, right? One of the things I like about Sarkin more than anything else is you're guaranteed some type of advantage with most of these cards, right? Sarkin is one of those. Worst case scenario, we play Sarkin the Madness, we make a 4/4, and then even if they can deal with Sarkin the Madness, we still have this 4/4 Flying Dragon sitting around that can do some major work, right? So we're getting something off of Sarkin, right? Even Tamiyo, we could play Tamiyo, downtick Tamiyo, and guarantee a card back in our hand, and that's really, really important. Narset, we play Narset, we downtick Narset, and we get a card. We play Karn, we uptick Karn, we get a card. We play Nissa, we make a land a dude, and we make a lot of stuff. All right, so okay, we don't get a card, but I'll take it. All right, we all know that Nissa is like really broken, so not even going there. Sarkin, did I say Sarkin the Madness? Right, Sarkin the Masterless. Sorry, Sarkin the Mad. Ugin, we uptake Ugin, we get a card, or we get card advantage by our Ugin dealt with their card. So these are all planeswalkers that I really, really like, and I think they're extremely powerful planeswalkers. Not like Saheeli Ra, that there's a lot of chance. I keep calling her Saheeli Ra. Saheeli Artifice, whatever her name is, right? You're in my head now. Oh no, not yet. No, no, that's the no, no. Never wanted madness anywhere in my head. Anyway, Saheeli's one of those cards that you don't get the advantage like when you play it. You don't get an instant Sublime Artificer. Thank you very much. Very much. You don't get advantage guaranteed when you do play Saheeli, but you do with Narset, Karn, Tamiyo, Sarkin, Ugin. Like you can get that card advantage, and that is really, really important when you're trying to pick planeswalkers to put in your planeswalker decks. So I'm going to say Rocker picks some really powerful planeswalkers here to put in his teamer deck. The thing about that is the mana base for our non-walker spells is going to be a little bit wonky, right? Let's say that we really want to get out that Narset because that's going to be our first one, right? I'm going to jump back over here. We're going to look at this again for those of you that are just tuning in as we're fixing some of these mana bases and talking about some of the cards and some of the decks that we're going to be playing later tonight. We're going to try to guarantee that we can cast our spells on turn. So, no Tibalt, no things. Oh man, what? Tibalt does give you another body, which does help protect, and that is a guaranteed. So Tibalt's not that bad. I kind of like Tibalt. Alright, so Narset, as we know, in order to cast Narset, we are going to need, it's like a Jade Light Ranger, we need that 18. Let's see if I move my mouse like right here. There we go. We are going to need those 18 sources to be able to cast Narset on turn. So let's take a look. Let's do a quick count here real quick. We've got 4, 5, 6. We do count these as all colors, right? So this will take us to 10, 11. And then moving on down, we've got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We're really close. We made the call on our last one that we were not going to be able to edge into the full 18. So we might be doing that again here. Let's look at the rest of the count. One of the ones that we really gotta look at here is Growth Spiral, right? Growth Spiral is going to be a little bit harder to calculate, mainly because you need to be able to get one of these colors on turn 1 while getting another color on turn 2. Growth Spiral here is going to be a little trickier than just saying, if we have our 13 sources, we should be able to do it. But in most cases, if you have 13 of each of the sources, you should be all right. Okay. That's not 100%. That is not 100%. So for those of you that went and read Dr. Frank Karsten's article, you'll know that he does explain it a little bit better than that. But that's 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 going to be okay. See, I can't count Mox Amber for any of these spells, right? Because until we actually have a Narset out, Mox Amber is not going to help us cast a growth spiral. Until we have a Sarkin out, Mox Amber will not help us cast Shock, Lightning Strike, or Fire Cannonade. Until we have a Tameo out, it's not going to help us cast Growth Spiral or Negate. So Mox Amber is really not going to help us do anything, right? Except for turns 4, 5, and 6. So Mox Amber is really not going to be counted in any of this, and I really just can't count it. Mobilized District, one of the few utility lands that I would not cut, right? Like, I get the fact that there's Mobilized District in this deck, and I don't know that I would take much away to be able to put Mobilize, or to take Mobilized District out. It's really, really important, and in these particular decks, this is exactly where you want to be. I mean, you know, you're fighting through board sweepers and things like that with Mobilized District, so I really do like Mobilized District. There's a nice little feature here. You can Nissa. All right, let's read Nissa real quick. Right now, hold on. Let me jump back over here so that's not blocking us. Now my big head's blocking us. Okay, so Nissa, who shakes the world. Put 3 1/1 counters on up to one target non-creature land you control. Untap it. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste, and it's still a land. So what you can actually do with Nissa is you can activate and make your Mobilized District into a 3/3. Now that makes its base power and toughness a 0/0. It has 3+1/1 counters on it. And then if you have the mana to do it, you can actually activate your Mobilized District, making it all of a sudden a 6/6. Okay, just want to throw that out there. You do have to activate Nissa first and make it into a 3/3, and then, or make it into a 0/0 with 3+1/1 counters, and then activate the Mobilized District. You'll have a 6/6. Okay, so just want to throw that out there. Mox Amber is only good if you have a critical mass of 3 mana walkers. Yeah, Mox Amber would be the first cut I would make in this deck. If I was going to start cutting cards out of this deck, Mox Amber would be it. I like Mox Amber when I'm playing cards like Fibblethep. 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 I've heard so many different pronunciations of it, but I pronounce it the way Mark Rosewater did, the way that Marshall Sycliffe does. Fibblethep. All right, just Fibblethep. Again, if I was going to cut anything, Mox Amber would be out, because it's just not going to help much until much later in the game. And if you notice, like the deck that it did do really well with, it was in a deck that had a lot of 3 mana. Fibblethip. Oh, now I've got to pull up a picture of Fibblethep. Is Fibblethep thick? Is it? Oh, how do you spell it? Is that right? Is that how you spell Fibblethep? It is how you spell Fibblethep. Oh my goodness. Uh, Thick around the midsection here, right? I don't know. Fibblethep. He's got a thick eye. All right. Replace the Moxies with Saheeli, probably. So, you know, actually, as you start putting Saheelis in the deck, that actually makes me like Mox even more. So, I don't know there. Let's continue talking. We might find some more things that we like better than Saheeli. But I do like Saheeli. Saheeli's really good, and I think like a tuna can. Paulus, you're so toxic, dude. Elliot, you are so toxic. Oh my gosh. Welcome to the chat, man. Welcome to the chat. Jeez. Sir Eccles brought it up. You can't tell with that loincloth in the way. Oh man. You guys. All right, so let's move on. All right, if we want, oh, I've lost it. All right, So we know that we have 17 blue sources. So Narset's not going to be that hard. Negate's also not going to be that hard, and we have more than enough blue sources to cast Growth Spiral. Actually, we have exactly enough blue sources to cast Growth Spiral, right? Because Interplanar Beacon is not going to help us cast Growth Spiral, so you take the 17 sources that we have minus the 4 Interplanar Beacons, we're actually left at 13 sources, which is where you need to be for a turn 2 green, right? So when we start looking, or turn 2 blue, so now we need at least 13 non-interplanar beacon green sources, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh man, we're one off there, right? As far as red goes, jumping back over here because I know some of you want to see it. As far as red goes, we go back and we look at our Lyra Dawnbringer here. We need those 14 sources, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be a major problem because of Interplanar Beacon. What I am more worried about is, can we even cast our shocks early enough? Can we cast our lightning strikes early enough? Like, so we need 13 sources for a turn 2 lightning strike. We need 14 sources for a turn 1 shock. So where are we at on the red here, right? As far as red goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on the red. So we're close, right? We're close. Chances of getting that turn 1 shock are going to be a little bit slim. We could drop the mobilized districts to get in there. So we've broken Eric to the point of laughter. Maybe we might see salty Eric at some point today. It might happen. I might get salty. So your mana base is actually pretty sweet here, Rocker. You put some work into this, right? It's close, right? It's probably as close as we're going to be able to get with mobilized districts still in the deck, and most of that is thanks to Interplanar Beacon. Interplanar Beacon is going to put us where we need to be able to cast, Sarkhan the Masterless and things of that nature. So Sarkhan's great though. I am a little bit worried about, like, are we going to be able to cast our shocks? Are we going to be able to cast our lightning strikes? And I don't really like Fiery Cannonade at the moment. Fiery Cannonade's good, and there's some decks where I really, really would want to bring in Fiery Cannonade, but I don't think I would have it in the main, right? Like, Fiery Cannonade would be the one card that I would want to trade out of this deck. And if it did that, that's where I would want my Saheeli. So if we have an extra 3 mana card that would work with Mox, that improves the whole rest of the deck, right? So let's look at the sideboard a little bit here. We've got Ionize for, I guess, non-Teferi decks. Legion War Boss is really powerful. Mass Manipulation, it's really good when you got a lot of ramp. Return to Nature, destroy target artifact, or destroy an enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. Just all the things that you might want. This is pretty sweet, right? Where if they go to command the Dread Horde, you can return to Nature the, in response, they go to cast command the Dread Horde with it on the stack. You can actually remove, like, Wildgrowth Walker from the graveyard, go ahead and exile that, and now all of a sudden they've spent all this life and they get a bunch of Explore triggers, but they don't get their Wildgrowth Walker. That's actually just stupid powerful. I prefer to just counter the spell. But Back to Nature has some merit. For those of you that have played Magic for a while, you know that Naturalize happens to be just an outright decent Magic card, right? Oh my gosh. 3 Chandra Planeswalkers confirmed for Core Set 2020. What? 3 Chandras in Core Set 2020? I mean, you mean you buy a box of Core Set 2020, you're guaranteed to get Planeswalker, three Chandras, right? Is that what you mean? Three separate Chandra Planeswalkers for core set 2020. That means we'll have four Chandras in standard at the given time. Wow. Oh man. Uh, hmm. That's that's huge. Um, so again, Sorcerer's Spyglass. I'm not real big on it. I don't think it does enough, and I think that's mainly because of the static abilities of a lot of the planeswalkers that are out right now. Five counting the Dominaria Planeswalker Chandra. Wow. Yeah, see, I didn't even think about that non-playable one. Yeah, one for each rarity, and each version is her getting progressively stronger. They're really getting ready for this Netflix thing, right? So is she? Man, I wish they would give us more information. Is she going to be the main character of the Netflix, or maybe at least the main character of season one, and we go through her backstory? That would be awesome if they animated Chandra's backstory, where she got trained by Jaya Ballard, where she got, oh, man, that would be. They better have her stealing Dad's car. All right. If they don't have her stealing Dad's car to run out and do some like whatever, right? She's got to take Heart of Karen at least once. I hope that they make an episode where she runs off and takes Heart of Karen at least once. Um, yes, she is on the promotional poster thing, but they did say that that or well we don't know whether or not she's going to be the main star or just part of a larger host. So we spent an entire FX budget on Chandra's hair. Uh, Chandra. So again, Fiery Cannonade in the side seems really good. I would probably start with like taking out a Mass Manipulation and a Sorcerer's Spyglass, and then I would take out one Fiery Cannonade, and I'd bring these other two Fiery Cannonades into the side. I get that Fiery Cannonade would actually destroy your little tokens, and that's okay. That is okay. And then I'd probably bring in Saheeli. Like if I could spell Saheeli, I don't know. We're gonna see if that's right. Oh my goodness, I'm getting so good at the spelling thing. Anyway, so Saheeli Sublime Artificer here. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. This will also work really, really good with your Karns, so that you can downtick Karn. So let's say that we go turn 3 Saheeli into Mox Amber, shock our opponent, and then like we've made two tokens. Turn 4 play Karn, make another token, downtick Karn, make another artifact that's what? Oh my goodness! So we have a Mox Amber. We've got 3 tokens out plus the other artifact. That's a 5 power Karn on 4. So that's a thing. And this is I think this is about where I would want to be with this particular deck. Because of the mana base, like we know that the mana base can cast Narset, so we know that the mana base can cast Saheeli. Saheeli is also really flexible with the mana base, as one interplanar beacon can create both one blue and one red, which will allow you to cast Saheeli, whereas one interplanar beacon cannot cast a Narset. So just a little bit more flexibility. I think that Saheeli fits really well into the deck and gives you a lot of power moving forward with cards like Karn. So I think this is where I would want to be with this particular deck. Nissa's really good. I just really like where the deck's at right here. Niv Mizzet. I don't know if this card belongs in this deck or not, but it's a pretty cool card, right? Like if you were really big on, I just want to have that extra mass manipulation, maybe take out a Niv Mizzet. Sorcerer's Spyglass, on the other hand, not exactly what I would be looking for. Yes, I get it. Sorcerer Spyglass can make sure that they can't downtick a Narset. It'll make sure that they can't, uptick a Chandra, so Chandra just sits there forever and never really does anything. Yeah, like there's a lot of things you can do with Sorcerer's Spyglass, but again, I don't think that that's where you want to be in matchups like red deck and decks like that. I think that I think that just creating tokens, making things like that is going to be more powerful. Yes, I know Goblin Chain Whirler is a thing. Okay, the beauty of Saheeli is you don't have to downtick. Also, I do want to point out that you can have a Saheeli artifact on the battlefield and play Sarkin, make a dragon, downtick Saheeli, turn your token into the said dragon, swing with it that very turn. All right, so that is something that you can do. There's a lot of potential with Saheeli, and I kind of like that. You feel Sparrow Pierce might be better than Negate personally. James Carr, you are right, and I didn't even think about that, especially when we're on the Mox Amber Shock plan, right? Spell Pierce is probably 10 times better than Negate right now. Um, yeah, like you might be onto something right there, and Spell Pierce is probably the proper card to go with. That being said, I would probably want to have some access to some solid countering somewhere. Um, Ionize might one of the Ionize might become a negate, and then two Spell Pierces in the main board, and maybe even another Mox Amber or something like that. I don't know, but I Spell Pierce seems good. Rocker, how do you feel about Spell Pierce over Negate? Because I would straight make that change. Um, you sent something in Discord. That's something we've got to get going again. I've got to get the Discord up so that we can bring people in. So you guys, when we are talking about your decks, we can bring you in, let you get on stream and do some talking. So your only thing is you'd rather not give your opponent the option to counter our counter. Mm. Fibblethep never looks so. Yeah, all right. So Fibblethep might actually fit in the deck instead of Negate, just because you could play Fibblethep and then bring in the Mox Amber and get an extra blue source. But the extra blue doesn't really help with a ton, so I don't know about that. Um, hmm. Fibblethep could fit. Fibblethep could really, really fit in the deck. It could. It was in the Jeskai Walker's deck, and I mean, that's pretty what you're doing for blockers. You're making a bunch of Fibbletheps. You're making a bunch of 1/1s, and that's okay. Um, all right, so you'd rather not give them the opportunity to counter our counter. Um, Countering our counter with what? Like, I mean, they can counter our negate, right? Um, we have Ionize in the side. Yeah, I don't know. Your only thing is you'd rather not give the opponent the option to counter our counter. Well, negate can be countered, and we don't have the option to play the Dovin's Veto. We don't have that. We do have the option to actually play Dovin in the deck. Like, Dovin could fit in this deck. Um, hmm. The 1 mana from Mox makes Spell Pierce better. I think so too, because you can play the Saheeli or the Narset, right? Either open up Spell Pierce. So you just mean that they just have the mana to just say no. I can pay my spell. Eh, that's fair, but in a game that you expect to go long, like if you're stopping a turn 3 to fairy, then with a Spell Pierce you're winning, right? Um, if you're stopping, a turn 5 Sarkin, like if they're trying to play on curve at all, silly powerful. It's really, really powerful. Also, you get to play around with cards like um, you know Benelish, not Benelish Marshall, History of Benalia. It's a really good card to leave open for History of Benalia. You often will tap out to cast non-creature spells. You often will tap out to cast non-creature spells. A lot of times, yeah. I think I still think that Spell Pierce will be good, and we could do that. Like we could jump into Spell Pierce if we wanted to. I'll let you think about it a little bit, Rocker. I would I would make the change to Spell Pierce. I really would. I would play the Spell Pierce over the Negate in the main, um, and just kind of go from there. And leave my Ionize in the sideboard and just take it for what it is. Spell Pierce just fits with your curve so much better. Um, you're fine with making the Spell Pierce change? Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and make it then. Spell Pierce. We're gonna go. You want to go with the old Zendikar? You just want the new one. I like the old Zendikar ones. I don't know why. I mean, I guess we could just the pretty ones, right? Um, yeah, let's do this. I don't know that we'll get that art when we rent these cards from manatraders anyway. So you don't like conditional counters either, but playing it in a Jeskai Walker deck, it was very helpful. Yeah, see, that's what I'm comparing this to is the Jeskai Walker deck that did so well, or that is doing so well. It runs the Spell Pierce, and right now, the way our meta is going, people are having to apply pressure to the board, right? Also, it's not out of the question to be able to go, all right, I've got an extra blue source here in my hand. I'll go ahead and Growth Spiral. I will bring in the Steam Vents. I'll pay 2 life. I'll bring it in untapped, and then I'll counter your Teferi anyway. And I've ramped that turn. That's a powerful turn 2, right? Like you can turn 2 Growth Spiral on their turn 3, play that extra blue source, get in with that Spell Pierce. I don't know, it's pretty good. Funny enough, that was the original skeleton for this. That's exactly what I thought when I looked at it. So that being said, what made you not pick Dovin? Just curious, what made you decide that Dovin was not going to be part of this? And while we're waiting on that answer, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I would like to run the deck like it is right now. Other changes could be made if we wanted to. Um, for one, Ugin's probably a little bit too high on the converted mana cost to really be, locking that spot in. Um, but I like Ugin. Ugin's really powerful, and if you do get Ugin off, then um, I can't believe I said that. If you do get Ugin onto the battlefield, um, you're just gonna take over the game. So Dovin doesn't work well against go wide decks. It does not. You are right. It's really good when you're coming up against someone who says, here's a really big dude. We're gonna go from here, right? So yeah. I figured out a way to play Niv turn 3 the other day. Problem is, it takes about 7 cards. My favorite thing to play with Niv Mizzet is Treasure Map. Because on with Treasure Map you can have a turn 5/7 open mana, which means you can play Niv Mizzet with a dive down backup. That's broken. It's just broken. So, Chris Maxim, Sideboard MTG. I'm going to the MCQ in the Twin Cities, and I'm considering putting Unmoored Ego in the sideboard for things like Nexus of Fate. Should I be scared of things like that? Yes. Nexus of Fate is one of the top 8 decks in the format right now. I do have a video that's going to be coming out this week that, hey, I've had no power, so I got a lot of stuff jotted on paper here lately, and we're gonna be talking about a um, the tier list coming up this week. So like I'm going to be doing that for our newscast this week. We're gonna talk about the top 8 decks that you are most likely to run into when going to a tournament, right? Now that's not going to count all the fringe decks and things like that. Like this particular version of the deck is fringe, but we're going to talk about the top 8 decks. Not necessarily a tier list, but we're kind of in such a broad standard right now that we don't really have like a straight up tier list. I mean, you could say Esper Esper Hero is your top tier deck. This is the deck, like the top tier deck. But there's a lot of different lists that are playable right now, that are competitively playable. So yeah, I would I would definitely consider Nexus as being one of the decks that you could run into, and the better you do, the more likely you are to run into one of these Nexus decks. Do I expect there to be a bunch of people playing Nexus? Probably not. Narset's put a lot of pressure on that deck. Um, Teferi has put a lot of pressure on that deck. Um, but the deck's playing differently. The deck is no longer like a wilderness reclamation deck. It's doing other things. It's got it's more of a Bant ramp deck than it was anything else. Which also the Bant ramp deck is also mass manipulation, which I actually expect you to run into more mass manipulation decks than I do Simic Nexus decks. But both are there, and Ego's a really good card right now for certain decks. Uh, yeah, okay, so Rocker Ego against Citadel is really good, but what do you take out, right? Um, Personally, if I was going to play Ego against a Golgari Citadel deck, I'd probably call Wild Growth Walker. I mean, if you can call Wild Growth Walker, you just broke their deck, right? Like, they cannot combo off. They cannot. And then if you can apply pressure at all, then there's not going to be a lot they can do. I mean, yeah, you could go straight for the Golgari Citadel, or the Bolus's Citadel, but if you take Wild Growth Walker, they can get some value out of the Citadel, but they're not going to get too much. Mono Red is still a deck. A friend of yours won another MCQ with it recently. Yeah, Mono Red has not been pushed out of the format. Last week we seen 11 players in the MPL, which we have to consider our pros, right? Like our pros know what they want, and they're coming up against other pros playing really powerful decks. We seen uh, Seth Manfield play. I always put a S. Seth Manfield played Mono Red versus Uza's Martin Uza's Jeskai Walker's deck, and he crushed him. Manfield just crushed him. But then again, Seth Manfield is one of the best players in the world right now. So yeah. Walker or Citadel to just disrupt their combo is what you usually pick. Right. I like picking Walker with that particular version of the with that particular card, just because like you're going to be hurting their deck a ton, right? Like there's not a lot that they can do. James Carr says, I'm trying Lazotep plating in your sideboard for the manipulation and mono red decks. I like that. I actually like I like Lazotep plating because yeah, you're paying a little bit more, but now you can provide protection to a lot of things. Um, and you're amassing one, especially if you have even more amass in your deck. I really do like Lazotep plating. I don't think that I don't think it's a bad card. Um, is it a top tier card? Maybe not. Especially while we still have dive down. But if you're playing any kind of variant where you're trying to protect something other than a creature, then last step plating is pretty good. Plus, making that blocker is really worth the extra mana. Um, all right, so I think we've got Super Friends about where we want it to be here. So I'm leaving deck 3 that we're going to be playing later tonight. Um, I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick that. I, I'm I'm going to do these two decks, Teamer Super Friends and the Jeskai Treasure Raider deck. These were the two that got the most votes. The third deck will be just a deck that I want to play. Right? It was a deck that somebody posted that I wanted to play. It's not going to matter about votes. It's going to be streamers pick. I was going to streamers pick the mono black sigil deck, but I figured you guys would want to see some type of gameplay during this stream. So we're going to play this, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it a little bit and see if it's. I don't want to say see if it's worth fixing, um, but we're going to play it and we're going to talk about Karn the Great Creator and being put in a lot of these monocolor decks. Like we've seen him in the mono green, we've seen him in mono black. Also seen him in a couple other decks. So Karn the Great Creator He's an interesting card, but every time I see him lately, we end up with this 15 card sideboard that is nothing but artifacts, and that, oh, it drives me insane. All right, anyway, let's go. Let's go play some constructed. Oh, there's something else I wanted to say really quick, right? This game came out in 2004. Right, this particular like Magic Online come out in 2004, and just now with that latest update, I didn't even realize in that latest update we got 25 new deck boxes. 25 new deck boxes. Finally! Oh my goodness! Finally, 25 new deck boxes. We actually get to pick some other stuff, right? Jace, the picture of Jace here. Here's the old picture of Jace, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Who is this? Is this also Jace? Who is this? That's Jace. 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 So many Jaces. All right, moving on. We did get new deck boxes, though. That's pretty sweet. So, all right. So we want to do standard tournament practice. We're gonna create this, and I assume that I am playing. What? It didn't let me pick my deck. Oh, yeah, I have my deck picked. All right, here we go. Yes'm. Playing against Yes'm. Is that a new? Is this a new pictures too? Oh man, I've got to go check some stuff out. Jace, Jace, and Jace. It's 25. All right, so we get one land. Can't do anything with it. Must mulligan. 3 lands. We can get some stuff out. Even have a Karn. We can start getting into that. Do I want this on turn 2? Do I? I don't think so. Like, I think I want a little more action, right? Or like some counter action, something to kill something with. Ooh, there's some land. There be the land. We just play a blast zone. He doesn't have to know what we are. Like, there's no reason. Like, we don't need double black on turn 2. So I mean, I can play a blast zone, and I mean, there's a Rhythm of the Wild. Ouch. All right, so I guess we just go Dreadhorde Invasion here. It might be worth it. Like, if he doesn't have other ways to kill things, I might just slap down another Dreadhorde Invasion next turn. We also may just wayward. Ooh. Are we playing against Rush? Is this Rush's deck? We're playing against Rush. It's probably not Rush. Also, is it just me, or has every event after the Mormir one been easier to get the rewards? Ooh, I don't know. I think this is the route I'm going to go. So what do we get with Karn, right? We need some way to make things into artifacts so we can turn his lands into artifacts and then uptick and just kill his lands. That's what we need. So you need to be on the lookout for that and printing. Oh, wow. There we go. Here he comes. Ouch. Nope. Not doing anything here. Double Riot on these cards. Raska's Contempt. I'm just gonna swing, and we'll see what he draws. If he just goes into combat, I'm just gonna you know, shoot the. Urgh, urgh. All right. So he gave it haste and a single counter. He's getting in there with what? Everything. Everything. Well, we have to do something. So we'll Vraska's Contempt one of these. Now we're at 3. This is bad, ladies and gentlemen. This is bad. All right. So thank goodness. Thank goodness. So the only thing I can actually do here is pass the turn. And if he swings with everything, we're dead. We are dead. He did it. He actually did it. Yep. Dead to our own Command the Dread Hordes. We're one off of getting the life link too. Boom, boom, boom. Ouch. Ouch. He had a really good hand there. Like that he come out of swinging. So, again, because of the nature of this sideboard, I don't believe there's a whole lot that I could bring in that would help a ton. Amulet of Safekeeping, if he had a bunch of creature tokens, like maybe that would be where we want to be. I'm not playing Navigator's Compass. Like, it's just not worth the card. I don't believe that Fountain of Renewal is where we want to be. There was an option there where we could have played a Karn, played a Fountain of Renewal, but if he drew anything, we would have just died. So, that didn't work either. I'm just going to run it back the way it is. Yeah. Transmogrifying Wand, we didn't have enough mana to get away with that, so yeah. Transmog Wand is good against Gruul. Right. We just didn't have enough mana to be able to get the card down and get the Transmog Wand going. I'm gonna keep this hand. I mean, we can get our Dreadhorde Invasion in, which you can't be scared of. Like, if you're going to play cards like Dreadhorde Invasion, you got to be willing to go for it. So we'll go that. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card, and you get to amass one. That seems okay. I mean, so we'll do it again. If we don't hit a land, I'm going for the Dreadhorde Invasion Part 2 again. I don't think that I'm allowed to not do it. So, there's the Gruul Spellbreaker. Hexproof. He's choosing. What does he pick? Gave it haste. It's a 3/3. That's a thing. Alright, so we do have to worry that, our life total is under pressure here. Come on, land. That is a land. Alright, so we can amass here. And we get to pick something good out of their hand. I'm okay with this. We'll just start ripping their best cards out of their hand. Dommery? Dommery makes things fight. If I take I'm taking Jade Light. Like, if he plays he's going to play a Dommery, right? So, yeah. Language. Good on you, moderator. Good on you. Yeah, I hate that Cameron does that. We start bringing things in. That's right. Hit that like button. I do want to thank everyone that came out for Coffee Time today. It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much. You're all wonderful. So right now is when he should be going Dommery. Make my Gruul Spellbreaker fight your... Really? Really? Is how this is going to happen? Alright, so we're just going to get that extra mass right now. We'll take a Dommery. pass. I mean, so we could trade our zombie for Still Leaf Champion if we want. Or we could trade our army for a Still Leaf Champion. Alright. I assume he's going to make something fight here. If I was him, I would make the Gruul Spellbreaker fight the zombie, and then I would smack me for 8 damage. And then that would pretty much, that would end the game. That would pretty much end the game. He didn't do it. What are you doing? We need a lot more mana. Yeah, I don't have much choice. I can't keep taking this damage. Like we need to hit land, 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 get into this Liliana before we're dead. I mean, we've only got a couple turns here. Um, oh, it's gonna get bad. It's gonna get bad. Gruul, one of the big rising decks right now. Gruul's really good right now. And you know, if you're Madness, you're like Gruul is life. Gruul's the way to go. Ah, there's a Jade Light. Land off the top. Land off the top would be so clutch. Oh, it'd be so good. Alright, so he dumped Paradise Druid and left a Wayward Swordtooth on the top. Alright, so we're going to go to 5 here. Then we'll go down to 3. Need that land. Okay. Let's go talk about this deck a little bit, right? Let's talk about this. Because currently I'm not seeing anything that allows us to... I mean, I guess a Ritual of Soot would have been sweet, but again, we never got to the mana. I'm okay with the current mana base, you know, 4 Blast Zones and the rest swamps. That's great. I'm okay with the 4 Dread Hordes. Orzhov Enforcer, it's okay. Like we're in a mono black situation here. Um, I just don't think that there's enough power here, and I think that we're way too heavy on the 5 and 6 drops. We're also really heavy on the 4 drops. Ritual of Soot's in like one of the best place it's ever been in. You know, just because of all the Wild Growth Walker decks and things like that. I mean, even you know like the Command the Dread Horde decks, a lot of times you know they can go off and they create this huge board state, and then Ritual of Soot just like removes everything. But yeah, that's where I'm at, guys. I think Cast Down would be great, right? Cast Down would be absolutely wonderful in this deck, especially against that deck we were just playing against, right? So how could we maybe affect the main board by changing a few cards in the sideboard, right? Like some cards that I would want to add to this deck would be Cast Down and Duress. Oh, I typed cast. That is not going to get us where we want to be. All right. So like Cast Down and Duress would be my 2 cards that I'm like, okay, I really want some copies of this, right? And then I want some copies of Duress somewhere in this deck. So probably 3 and 3. So we need to come up with like 6 spots in the sideboard that we can get rid of. So Blood Tallow Candle, whatever I just said, Blood Tallow Candle. That 1 mana, we put 6 more mana into it, so a total of 7 mana. We sacrifice the artifact, and target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. That's okay if you're drafting. Fountain of Renewal, that seems okay, I guess, but not really where I want to be. Friends don't let friends play Navigator's Compass and Constructed, so we're getting rid of Navigator's Compass. Token strategies. Okay, whenever you become the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1. I've seen some people try this, right? I have. I've seen some people like play around with Amulet of Safekeeping, and I guess if you just really, really needed some type of answer, to token decks and things like that. But there's not like a super huge amount of token decks out there that this is going to work against, right? You say, okay, maybe the Saheeli decks. Well, those decks aren't trying to actually kill you with the tokens, right? They're actually using those tokens to actually protect their creatures, in which case you can just kind of run over the tokens anyway. So I'm not really worried about Amulet of Safekeeping. Okay, it's fair against red, but I don't know if it's enough, right? Making red have to spend a little bit more every time they target you with something is okay, but there's a lot of times they're not going to actually target you with anything. Yes, Virishino Pyromancer can target you. It can do some things. So there's some stuff that you could run, but I don't like Amulet of Safekeeping. And then as far as Meteor Golem, I don't think we need 4 of these. We can cut probably up to 3. But as of right now, like, because these are the big cards that I really want to bring into the sideboard for best of the 3 scenarios. Cast down and duress. We can leave in 2 Meteor Golems, but most of the time you're not going to have the opportunity to go down tick Karn, get a Meteor Golem, play a Meteor Golem, down tick Karn again, get another Meteor Golem, play the Meteor Golem. So like, I'm not huge on Meteor Golem. I do like the fact that we have access to Meteor Golem, and I wouldn't remove that. Also, you do have the little combo here of God Pharaoh's Gift and Helm of the Host, which is the really cute thing that you want to be doing with Karn, the Great Creator. Rocker, you're off to your local gaming store. Awesome, dude. Take care, and hope you have some fun. Hope you pick up some cards, whatever it is you need to do. Good luck with that. So this is the change you're wanting to make for F&M. You want to play Masterminds instead of Karn. Ooh. Okay. Diamond Mayor is pretty decent against mono red. You can actually bring Diamond Mayor in like into the main. Like, this is actually a card that you could say, okay, I'll bring this into the main. So you could actually side in with Diamond Mayor. Silent Gravestone is not bad, right? Cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. This is probably the premium piece of graveyard hate right now. Like, there's a lot of graveyard hate, but this is one of the best, right? Like, I am more into Silent Gravestone than I am any other graveyard hate right now, because you don't actually have to get rid of the graveyard. This will stop Command the Dread Horde. This stops a ton of stuff. This is kind of where we want to be in graveyard hate. So like, there's no way I would get rid of this card. Sorceress Spyglass, I'm still on the fence about. And if you wanted to cut a Sorceress Spyglass, you could. And if you wanted to go that route, like maybe even another Diamond Mare. Like, if you're worried about a lot of mono red or aggressive decks and things like that, maybe another Diamond Mare, because again, this is a card that you can legit bring in to the main board in games 2 and 3. So that's an option as well. So when we start changing the sideboard a little bit here, it starts making everything like look a little bit different, right? We still have good search options for Karn. If you are going to do that, then I would remove one Karn. We'll grab this Masterminds Acquisition. We put a Masterminds Acquisition in the deck. I would also get rid of a Bantu and probably a Liliana, just to convert, like, to reduce my overall converted mana cost of the deck. Like, if you're surviving, you're going to see a Liliana or a Bantu at some point if you're surviving. With Mastermind, you can grab Elder Spell from the side or a Sweeper from the main. Then you could build a real sideboard. Understood, but you don't actually have to go like that deep into those things. Like, I would like to see just a little bit more interaction with your opponent, right? Like, so as far as like your early turns go, Dread Horde Invasion, yeah, you're making dudes off of this. That's really, really sweet. Orzhov Enforcer, these are not aggressive cards, so these are normally cards that you see when you're trying to protect something, right? When you're trying to protect something, you're trying to get further into the game. I also think that Toll Toll of Invasion is a little too weak. Yeah, we're getting absolutely anything we want, but it's a little weak. I don't know if I would run Toll of Invasion. I get it. I get why it's there. It works with it. Dreadhorde Invasion. That 3 mana for this. That's a lot. That is a lot when we could be using removal spells, things like that. I will say that if you are going to Mastermind's Acquisition, it might be worth it to Lich's Mastery, right? Depending on, like, you're saying you're wanting to take this to your local game store this weekend. You want to play this at like F&M or something like that. Toll isn't even good enough for a mass. No, it's not. Toll's actually just super weak. I mean, I'd probably rather run mainboard Duress at this point. Duress is hitting something in almost every deck right now. Like, it's hitting something. Yeah, like, so if I was going to start cutting things, it would probably, like, from the main, it'd probably be Toll of Invasion. If you're really set on you want this Sigil of the Valoron, or Sigiled Sword of Valoron, like, if you want this, then you're going to need something to put it on, Orzhov Enforcer or something like that. Orzhov Enforcer is not horrible, right? Like, it's not exactly what I would want, but it's not horrible. But these are all cards that you normally want to put out there when you're trying to protect something. And you are trying to protect something with this deck. You're trying to protect your life total overall. And, that's okay. That's cool. What's it look like if we cut Toll for Cast Down? That's probably pretty sweet. Uh-oh. Looks like my streaming time is almost up. So if we cut Toll for Cast Down, some Cast Downs, maybe even... I'm gonna grab this Lich's Mastery and just throw one on the side real quick. And we'll grab one more of those. His mommy's got him. Okay. There's not an ignored crying baby in my house, I promise. Let's grab some Elder Spells really quick, and I think the other thing that I would be interested in the deck would be in the sideboard, command the Dreadhorde of your own, and then it's actually a really good card. Probably Moment. There's too many M's in that. Moment of Craving's not horrible. If you're worried about mono white decks, it's something else that you're going to run into. This is going to give you a little bit more life gain. It's going to help you deal with those mono red decks. It's going to help you like live longer to get into your other things. The big one for me is God Eternal Bond 2, right? Like, do you really need this many God Eternal Bond 2s? I don't think that you need to go that far. Like you're not wanting to hit the card on curve. You're wanting to hit the card fairly late game. So, Phyrexian Scriptures. That's an interesting one, right? Phyrexian Scriptures is very interesting. I think we're wanting to keep this deck fairly cheap. So like I want to just throw in regular Karn, right? Like I want regular Karn in here so bad it's pitiful. I think we're looking at Chupacabra. Alright, so let's get rid of a Vraska's Contempt. Let's get rid of 2 Vraska's Contempts. And go Choop. Save the amass token? Maybe. Choop. Let's look at this. I mean, the reason I say Choop, right, is because we got this really jank thing that we can do in the sideboard that would be stupid, right? If you get a Helm of the Host and you put it on a Chupacabra, people scoop, all right? I'm just saying, they scoop. Oh, okay. You could save your amass token with Scriptures. Scriptures is really slow. It's a turn 5 board wipe. But But one of the things about scriptures is that people won't play further into it, right? Like you're not going to have people just jump and like just feel more onto the battlefield because of things like that. Are there Cabal strongholds in here? No, there's not, but I don't think there's a reason to jump into that much mana, Sir Eccles. Now, if we were running some like some Joshua Vest or some spells like that, then maybe if we had something that was mana hungry enough, maybe for some strongholds, maybe that would be that'd be something to do. One of the reasons that I'm backing off of a couple of the Vraska's Contempts is because Vraska's Contempt will give us 2 life, right? But Chupacabra will kill something as well and has potential to block something and give us even more than 2 life. So scoop to scoop. All right. But yeah, I think Chupacabra is a really good card here, just because we're in a meta where we're not really having to exile a lot of things, right? We don't have like Hazards floating around, and even though we do have like Kefnet and things, but you can't really exile those anyway. So can make them discard, but I think I would want to be putting a little bit more onto the battlefield, and I think that this feels a little bit better. As far as having some things that you could do. Let's go back over here to converted mana cost and take a look at this again. We've got a lot more that we can do on much lower curve. So now we can be putting out our Dread Horde invasions. We don't have like much that can be done on turn 1. So I don't know. I think this is probably a little bit closer to where I'd want to be, but that's just from a theoretical standpoint. I feel more comfortable having some cast downs. I feel more comfortable having some moment of cravings. I'm okay with Orzhov Enforcer. Like this is not like exactly where I'd want to be, but then again, Mono Black's not exactly where I'd want to be. Dreadhorde Invasion's okay. Treasure Map, we may not want 4 copies of Treasure Map, so there's some things there. Midnight Reaper seems great here as well. See, that's not a bad idea either. It's also a knight. Not that really matters, but it's also a knight. But if you're really wanting to get into the Masterminds acquisition, I don't like a ton of Masterminds acquisition, and the reason I don't like a ton of it is because it doesn't do a whole lot, right? Like, yes, it will go get you exactly what you need, but you may be dead by the time you get to untap and cast that. Reaper over the map. I can see that. I can. Like more 3-drops seems okay. Yeah, I'm not like dead set on the map. Reaper may fit. I mean, especially when you're willing to lose things like Orzhov. Let's wait for it. Another option might be a Knight of Malice. So Knight of Malice getting, the extra, +2/+0. And then, this is the cool part, whenever it equips, whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 2/2 white knight, right? Alright, so if you do equip Knight of Malice, as soon as it attacks, you'll make that white token. That will actually give you the extra +1 to make Knight of Malice even larger. So it'll technically be getting a +3. Even if they kill that token, you can continue to do that. So, yeah. I mean, you could put Stronghold in the deck. Like, if you wanted to put a Cabal Stronghold in the deck, you could. Knight of Malice looks like it'd probably be pretty good. So let's say we don't want Treasure Map. We're not running the other card. What are we doing for card draw, right? What are we doing for card draw? Plus, another thing that I do want to mention is having more creatures means that you have more ways to draw cards off of Liliana Dreadhorde. right? So whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. So more creatures that we can put into the deck, more aggressive the deck gets, the those more of those that die, more you gain. So maybe you don't want Treasure Map, maybe you want Knight of Malice, maybe you want Midnight Reaper, some of those type cards. All of those are options. Yeah, I'm probably not real big on Treasure Map in this particular deck. So if I was going to hypothetically play a deck that had um, Sigiled Sword in it, it'd probably three Knight of Malice, maybe two Midnight Reapers, something like that. Either way, I'm still not like totally set on I would like to be on a Masterminds acquisition or not. I just don't 100% know if I want to be on that. If I was on it though, let's look at some of this. We do have a lot of life gain cards. We can't lose the game. Like you could slap down a Lich's Master. You got a couple combos here, so yeah. Yeah, there's no Scion of Urza Treasure Map seems like that's exactly how I was feeling. If you had the other Karn, then Treasure Map feels great, right? Without the other Karn, Treasure Map like it is. You're right. Lacking is probably one of the best words for it. We do want to keep a lot of black spells because we like against mono red. You want to bring in those diamond mares. Even in game one, you can slap down that Karn, go get that diamond mare, and then start using like cast downs and things in there. And now you're gaining life and you're doing other things. So yeah, I'm not big on treasure map and would probably just like more creatures in the deck. Also, one of the best ways to survive with Dreadhorde Invasion is to make them use removal on either your Dreadhorde Invasion army, and then you get to beat them down with other creatures, or you get to play other creatures, and they're so worried about other creatures that they can't really deal with the Dreadhorde Invasion. There's a lot of options there, but if I was going to tweak this deck, and there were some cards that I just had to run, like you wanted to have this toolbox type strategy in mono black, and you got a really good point about Cabal. Um, Cabal Stronghold, I'd probably have it as a 2 of in the deck just to have more mana to put in to feed into a Masterminds acquisition, go get things, that sort of thing. So there's definitely some options there. Lich's Mastery, it's a fun card, and having it in the sideboard with a Masterminds acquisition, in the main board it's always fun, and at that point you start Vraska's contempting. You draw some extra cards. Yeah, this deck would be so good. Yes, the James Carr hit the nail on the head right there. This deck so badly just wants to be blue black, right? Like this deck wants to be blue black so bad. But if you are stuck on mono black, I would probably run it. I'd probably run it somewhere around here. Um, Elder Spell's in a good spot, and being able to like Liliana is not a non-bow with Liliana, right? Like you kill a couple things, each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. That's right. You keep that one land, I'll kill the creature you keep in a minute. Vraska's Contempt does kill planeswalkers. That's a thought, right? But with a more aggressive strategy, you could probably beat down some of those planeswalkers too. So I think you would either go Karn the Great Creator or acquisition, not both. That's possible. That's possible. But if I was wanting to play a toolbox deck like this, maybe a 2-and-2 split or something like that. I mean, if you're wanting to have this one combo on the side here, Helm of the Host and God Pharaoh's statue, then you need Karn the Creator. Otherwise, that combo doesn't work at all. I mean, you've got some Transmogrifying Wands, you got a Meteor Golem. Like, you still have that little combo if you want to have that, and you want to play with Karn, you want to do that type of thing. Then you have these cards in the side. And then, if you want to do the other combos and things like that, you got Masterminds Acquisition. So, personally, I probably wouldn't play Masterminds Acquisition or Karn. I probably wouldn't play either of those decks if I was trying to be competitive. But, again, like, I probably wouldn't play this card. Honestly, there's very few cards in this deck that I'd probably play if I wanted to be competitive. I probably wouldn't even play black unless I was in Grixis right now. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna make that statement. Yeah. Oh, so you want another Reaper? I can see that. I can see another Reaper. Um, I don't know if I would be willing to cut. I don't know what I would be willing to cut. Maybe it would be the Masterminds acquisition for another Reaper. Maybe it would just be another Karn, but it would take a little more testing to know. So, all right, guys. I do want to say that Command the Dreadhorde. One of the best ways to beat a Command the Dreadhorde is to draw your own Command the Dreadhorde, cast it before they can. Right? If you can command the if you can just kill Wildgrowth Walker, Jade Light Ranger, Merfolk Branchwalker, all of that stuff, and then just cast Command the Dreadhorde and you empty the graveyard before they can, you just guarantee that you don't pull Tristani. Like you just got to make sure they can't get Tristani. Then you're doing great, right? You could also get back like maybe your Karn, and then after you've command the Dreadhorde, down tick the Karn, maybe play something along the lines of your Silent Gravestone after you've already cast Command the Dreadhorde, got all of their stuff. Now they can't get anything back. Like there's a lot of fun that can be had here. So again, Command the Dreadhorde, casting yours before they can get theirs is usually pretty sweet. So it's a good way to beat a Command the Dreadhorde deck. So I would probably have a copy floating around in my 75 if I was going to be running one of these toolbox decks. So other than that, like that's just about going to wrap it up for the show. We are going to be back a little bit later tonight. It's 5 o'clock here. I plan on streaming, and we're going to be playing the Jeskai Treasurator deck. We're going to be playing the Teamer Super Friends deck. I'm also going to go through the Reddit and pick a deck that I want to play. So, I mean, if you got some posts you want to make for this coming Subsunday or coffee, what I don't know. We're going to be doing some stuff. Probably, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. So if you've got ideas for that, then let me know. As far as like Subsunday names, things like that. But yeah, here in just a few hours we'll be back. We'll be playing the Jeskai Treasurator deck that we talked about. We'll be playing the Teamer Super Friends deck. I may end up picking that. I just want to come work on this deck a little bit more and bring it back and play it again. So I don't know. We may end up playing this more. We may end up playing something else. But for right now, that's my advice on these decks. I want to thank everyone again for all the support you guys gave and everything that all the beautiful messages. People offering to come over and help get a tree off the top of my house and stuff. Wasn't necessary, but thank you for offering anyway. You guys are wonderful. Just everything. Thanks for everything, guys. I appreciate it, and I hope you all like the little bit of a extra stream we did here. Get ready. We've got more streams coming, so we'll see you soon. That being said, stay awesome. We'll catch you next time.